Okay, this is our fifth session of the study of Haggai and Zechariah. And tonight we're going to start into the eight visions. We're going to look at the first vision tonight. But just I want to go a quick review of where we are on the timeline so far from the prophecies of Haggai and Zechariah. Um, Historically, the Jews under Cyrus returned to the land of Israel. I'm not sure the exact date they started building the foundation. I say 530 BC or so. I think it was a little earlier than that. But they begin to rebuild the temple. They lay the foundation under the leadership of Zerubbabel the governor and Joshua the high priest. Um, then, under the reign of the Cambyses of the Persian Empire, construction is halted. The nations rise up and they bring fear on the people, and they just stop building the temple until the second year of Darius, king of Persia, around 520 BC, is when Haggai and Zechariah begin to prophesy in the second year of King Darius, and that gets the ball rolling to rebuild the temple again. Haggai chapter 1, verses 1 through 13, it says occurred on the first day of the sixth month of Darius. And that's this first prophecy in Haggai. And basically, in that prophecy, he reproves the Jews because for the last over 10 years, they've been building their own houses while his house sat desolate. They're not obeying his command to build the temple, and there's strong reproof. And that occurred in the sixth year of Darius, in the sixth month, the second year of Darius, in the sixth month, Elul, on the first day of the month. That is when Haggai 1:1, the first prophecy in Haggai, took place. Then, according to verse 14 and 15 of Haggai 1, on the 24th day of that sixth month, um, under the leadership of Zerubbabel and Joshua, the people actually begin to start building. So he prophesies on the first day of the month. On the 24th day of the sixth month in the second year of Darius, they actually start to work. They start to begin to build the temple. Haggai chapter 2, verses 1 through 9 that we looked at, that occurred on the 21st day of the seventh month. And Haggai prophesies there basically to tell them, Yahweh of hosts is with you. Do not be afraid. You don't have to be afraid of these nations. And he's about to shake heavens and earth. He's going to shake the nations. This is Yahweh of hosts. And that occurred on the 21st day of the seventh month, the month Tishri, on the 21st day, which would have been the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles. That occurred in Haggai chapter 2, verse 1. Seventh month, 21st day of the month. That's when that prophecy in Haggai took place. You then actually jump to Zechariah. Zechariah chapter 1 that we looked at in last session occurred in the eighth month. These first 6 verses of Zechariah, the son of Berechiah, and he prophesies basically it's a message to repent. He tells them, your fathers had sinned, and this is what the result was. Now return to me, and I will return to you. And it's a message to repent. Don't be like your fathers were, but repent. And that prophecy occurred on the eighth month. We don't have a day of the month given there, but that's Chesvan. That occurred in the second year of Darius in the eighth month. Then you go back to Haggai, Haggai chapter 2, verses 10 through 23. This prophecy occurred on the 24th day of the ninth month of the second year of Darius. And on that day, Haggai prophesied twice. First was showing them that if they relied on their own works, they were unclean. But from this day forward, as they move, they would be blessed. Yahweh would bless them. And then the second prophecy that took place on that day is basically to the Zerubbabel, the governor, that Zerubbabel is going to be like a signet ring on the day that Yahweh of hosts shakes heaven and earth, when that day comes, and the nations will be shaken. And that is the last verses in Haggai occurred on the 24th day of the 9th month of the second year of Darius, which is here. Now we come to Zechariah chapter 1, verse 7. And by the way, we're basically in syllabus on page 29 of your syllabus here. And it says in Zechariah 1, verse 7, on the 24th day of the 11th month, which is the month Shebat, in the second year of Darius, the word of Yahweh came to Zechariah the prophet, the son of Berechiah, the son of Edu, as follows. This occurred on the 24th day of the 11th month, here in verse 7 of this month Shivat. And on this day, and this, it sounds like as you read this, that this happened at night. It was a night vision. Happened over the, I don't know what time, at night, but it was in the nighttime. And during this vision, he is given this prophecy, he's given 8 visions. 8 visions are given on this day, the 24th day of the 11th month of Shebat in the second year of Darius. That's here. And what it says is on the 24th day of the 11th month, the month Shevat, in the second year of Darius, the word of Yahweh came to Zechariah the prophet, the son of Berechiah, the son of Edo, as follows. And then, so what follows are the 8 visions that Zechariah was given on this day. And this chart, I believe this is also on that part of your syllabus. These are a brief of the 8 visions that are given on this one day. Zechariah 1, 7 through 17, we'll call it the horsemen sent to patrol the earth, which we'll look at tonight. The next in verses 18 through 21 is 4 craftsmen or carpenters that defeat the 4 horns. Then chapter 2 is a man with a measuring line. Chapter 3 of Zechariah is the reclothing of Joshua, the high priest. Chapter 4 of Zechariah is a vision of the golden lampstand flanked by 2 olive trees. Chapter 5, verse 1 through 4 is the vision of the flying scroll, the curse over all the earth. Zechariah chapter 5, 5 through 11 is a woman in an ephah. Wickedness is carried to Shinar. And then the last vision on that day is Zechariah chapter 6, verses 1 through 8. The Lord's chariots patrol the earth. Now, I pretty much think we're going to do one of these a week. Maybe we'll handle 2 in one night, but the way I'm going with this, I think it's going to be over the next 8 weeks. We'll be looking at each of these visions each week. So this week is this first vision, horsemen sent to patrol the earth. So first, let's just I'll read through the vision, and then we'll come back and look at some things. Zechariah chapter 1, verse 8, the first vision. I saw at night, and behold, a man was riding on a red horse, and he was standing among the myrtle trees, which are in the ravine, with red, sorrel, and white horses behind him. And I said, my Lord, what are these? And the angel who was speaking with me said to me, I will show you what these are. And the man who was standing among the myrtle trees answered and said, these are those whom Yahweh has sent to patrol the earth. So they answered the angel of Yahweh who was standing among the myrtle trees and said, we have patrolled the earth. And behold, all the earth is peaceful and quiet. Verse 12. Then the angel of Yahweh said, Yahweh of hosts, how long will you have no compassion for Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, with which you have been indignant these 70 years? Verse 13. And Yahweh answered the angel who was speaking with me with gracious words, comforting words. So the angel who was speaking with me said to me, proclaim, saying, thus says Yahweh of hosts, I am exceeding jealous for Jerusalem and Zion, but I am very angry with the nations who are at ease. For while I was only a little angry, they furthered the disaster. Therefore, thus says Yahweh, I will return to Jerusalem with compassion. My house will be built in it, declares Yahweh of hosts, and a measuring line will be stretched over Jerusalem. Verse 17 again proclaims, saying, thus says Yahweh of hosts, my cities will again overflow with prosperity, and Yahweh will again comfort Zion and again choose Jerusalem. So, what does that mean? One thing I think if you want to do reading ahead, I think during these weeks as we go through these visions, it might not be a bad idea just to read all the visions together because I think they all build upon one another. So from Zechariah 1, verse 8 through chapter 6, that all happened on this one day. So just to keep, I know when we were studying this, we kind of got lost in the details and missed the overall picture. And so I think it's a good idea, even though we're going to be taking these one at a time, to read through it and get an idea. And one thing I want to point out, I think in your syllabus, I didn't actually think I was going to cover this until another session on page 38, but I'd like to look at it. It's on page 38 of your syllabus tonight because I think this is important to try and understand what's going on here with the visions. And that's this, the angel who was speaking with me. You see the way it's worded there? It says, I saw it in verse 8. It starts out, I saw at night, and behold, a man was riding on a red horse, and he was standing among the myrtle trees. That I get a little confused with. I'm like, is the guy on a red horse? Did he get off the horse? And now he's standing? So that was kind of confusing to me. But there's a man standing in the myrtle trees. I get that. And then there's these horses. And then in verse 9 it says, the angel who was speaking with me. And then in verse 10 it says, the man who was standing among the myrtle trees. And then in verse 11 it says, the angel of Yahweh who was standing among the myrtle trees. And then in verse 12 it says, the angel of Yahweh. I think what you have here, and if you read, that's why I say if you read all these together, all the way through chapter 6, what you see is this angel of Yahweh is kind of a character that runs throughout all 6 of these visions. He's an angel. He's also the man. Angels look like men. He is the man. He's the angel. He is the angel of Yahweh. And some parts of this, it gets a little complicated to understand because this angel acts as he's in the vision. In other words, you see him in the vision, but he also acts as an interpreter of the vision. He brings understanding. Like Zechariah will ask him, my Lord, what are these? And the angel of Yahweh tells him what he's seen. Sometimes the angel of Yahweh will actually talk with Yahweh and will ask Yahweh a question. Then sometimes the angel of Yahweh actually speaks on behalf of Yahweh, where he will speak as if he is speaking as Yahweh himself is speaking, the angel of Yahweh. And then there's sometimes in the vision, this angel of Yahweh is actually carrying out the judgment that God is pouring out in the vision. So when you get that and you understand this angel of Yahweh is this character, but he's part of the vision, he's the narrator, he's the interpreter, he's like the mediator between Zechariah and Yahweh in understanding this whole vision. And that got me looking at a topic which, when I went to my Bible college, we had to do a research paper, and this is something I wish I would have. This is what I think would have been a great research paper to do, and that is, who is the angel of Yahweh? What is the angel of Yahweh? How does that? Who is this angel of Yahweh that you see in the Bible? And just to let you know, on this chart, and this chart is on page, I think it's on page 38 or 39 of your syllabus. Right here, these are the only usages of the angel of Yahweh in the Old Testament. It's not like it occurs all over the place. It occurs in specific times with specific reasons. In Genesis 16, the angel of Yahweh appears to Hagar. In Genesis 22, the angel of Yahweh appears to Abraham when he's offering Isaac. In Exodus 3:21, the angel of Yahweh appears to Moses at the burning bush. In Numbers 2, it was the angel of Yahweh that appears to Balaam when he's talking to his donkey. It's the angel of Yahweh. In Judges 2, the angel of Yahweh reproves the children of Israel. In Judges 6, the angel of Yahweh appears to Gideon. In Judges 13, the angel of Yahweh appears to Manoah and his wife, Samson's parents. And then in Second Chronicles and Second Samuel and First Chronicles, it's the angel of Yahweh that appears to David with his sword drawn over Mount Moriah after sending pestilence throughout the land of Israel. In First and Second Kings, the angel of Yahweh speaks to Elijah. And in Psalms, there's 2 Psalms where the use of angel of Yahweh is mentioned 3 times in Psalms. It's the angel of Yahweh in the record in Isaiah and Second Kings that went out with the Assyrian army in one night and killed 185,000 Assyrians. The angel of Yahweh. And then the angel of Yahweh appears here in Zechariah. And that's it. In the entire Bible, that phrase, angel of Yahweh. Now, I don't know how big a deal to make of this. The angel of Yahweh is never given a name. Like some people I've heard thought it was Michael, some think it's Gabriel. We don't know. Like, is this a different angel? Could any angel be an angel of Yahweh? In other words, any angel that God commissions to be his angel at that time is the angel of Yahweh, or is it one particular angel? I don't know. This is what I know. These are the places. But I do think that to get an understanding of how the angel of Yahweh appears, I think the record of Manoah and his wife, Samson's parents, is a very good understanding to understand the angel of Yahweh and how the angel of Yahweh appears in Scripture and how the angel of Yahweh is appearing here in the book of Zechariah. And this is in Judges 13. This is the parents of Samson before he was born. And it says in Judges, it's in Judges chapter 13, verse 2, there was a certain man of Zorah, of the family of Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and had borne no children. One thing I don't get about this record, the wife's name is never mentioned. She's just the wife of Manoah. I don't know why that is. A lot of times God tells who the wife is, but here he didn't. Anyways, that is neither here nor there, but I never know why that is. But the wife was barren and borne no children. Then the angel of Yahweh appeared to the woman and said to her, behold, now you are barren and have borne no children, but you shall conceive and give birth to a son. Now, therefore, to be careful not to drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. For behold, you shall conceive and give birth to a son, and no razor shall come upon his head, for the boy shall be a Nazarite to God from his womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel from the hand of the Philistines. And the woman came and told her husband, saying, a man of God. So she saw the angel, and she says now, a man of God came to me, and his appearance was like the appearance of an angel of God. Very awesome. And I did not ask him where he came from, nor did he tell me his name. But he said to me, Behold, you shall conceive, give birth to a son, shall not have strong drink, not eat unclean thing. The boy shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb to the day of his death. Then Manoah, verse 8, entreated Yahweh and said, O Lord, please let the man of God, a man whom you sent, come to us again, that we may teach us what to do for the boy who is to be born. God listened to the voice of Manoah, and the angel of God came again to the woman as she was sitting in the field. But Manoah, her husband, was not with her. So the woman ran quickly and told her husband, Behold, the man who came the other day has appeared to me. Then Manoah arose and followed his wife. And when he came to the man, he said to him, Are you the man who spoke to the woman? And he said, No, I'm the angel of Yahweh. No, he said, No, I am. I'm the man who spoke to the woman. And Manoah said, Now, when your words come to pass, what shall be the boy's mode of life and vocation? The angel of Yahweh said, Manoah, let the woman pay attention to all that I said. And he repeats the same thing. Not going to make strong ring. And Manoah, then verse 15, says to the angel of Yahweh, Please let us detain you so that we may prepare a young goat for you. Verse 16, and the angel of Yahweh said to Manoah, Though you detain me, I will not eat your food, but if you prepare a burnt offering and offer it to Yahweh. For Manoah did not know that he was the angel of Yahweh. And Manoah said to the angel of Yahweh, What is your name? So that when your words come to pass, we may honor you. But the angel of Yahweh said to him, Why do you ask my name, seeing it is wonderful? By that way, that word wonderful, it's in Psalms where it says God's wisdom is inscrutable. I think it says it's that same word. Anyways, it said it's wonderful. Verse 19. So Manoah took the young goat with the grain offering and offered it on the rock to Yahweh. And he performed wonders while Manoah and his wife looked on. For it came about when the flames went up from the altar toward heaven that the angel of Yahweh ascended in the flames of the altar. So they prepare this offering, they make the offering. This man who they think he's like an angel, he's talking to him, and as the flame goes up, the angel, I don't know if he jumps in the fire anyways, and he goes up with the offering in the flames. And Manoah and his wife saw this. They fell on their faces to the ground. Now the angel of Yahweh did not appear to Manoah or his wife again. Then Manoah knew that he was the angel of Yahweh. And Manoah said to his wife, We will surely die, for we have seen God. Well, he didn't really see God. He saw the angel of Yahweh, who appeared on behalf of God. And it reminds me of Hebrew, where God says, through many ways he has spoken to his prophets, through the angels. But late in these later days, he's appeared to us through his son. And his wife says to him, if he was going to kill us, he wouldn't have given us this promise of his son. Get out, you don't know what you're talking about. Anyways, that gives you an idea of, I think, a good idea of the angel of Yahweh and how it appears. And I think that's what you have here in Zechariah. And I've highlighted these. I'm not going to go through these. I may point these out as we go through these visions. Because sometimes it's just a pronoun, me, or the angel of Yahweh says, I will wave my hand, and this is going to happen. To understand that it's this angel of Yahweh that's performing these things. It's this angel of Yahweh who's a mediator speaking back and forth to Zechariah. And sometimes the angel of Yahweh is actually part of the vision that Zechariah is seeing. And sometimes the angel of Yahweh speaks on behalf of Yahweh as if Yahweh is speaking himself. And these are all the different places. And like I say, as we go through these visions, I'll point these out to you. But it's good to understand this angel is the one that's in between and bringing understanding to Zechariah. So, all right. So now, what is this vision talking about? He says, I saw at night, and behold, a man was riding on a red horse, and he was standing among the myrtle trees, and we're in the ravine with red, sorrel, and white horses behind him. And if you're me, I'm like, what are these horses? What's up with the horses? You got red horses, you got sorrel horses, you got white horses. And I think this is important to understand when we're looking at this vision as well as all the visions. It's a vision. They're not literally horses. It's kind of like a metaphor. Um, and it represents something. Uh, that's what a metaphor is. It represents something. What are these? So then the question becomes, well, what do these horses represent? So rather than like, I like to dig down into the details and we'll look at the little details, but I think it's important to keep in mind what's the overall point, right? And that's what Zechariah asks him. He says, my Lord, verse 9, what are these? And then the man or the angel of Yahweh who's standing among the myrtle trees says, these, talking about these red, sorrel, and white horses, are those whom Yahweh has sent to patrol the earth. So, whatever the horses are, or however they looked, what they represent is that these have gone out on behalf of Yahweh to patrol the earth. They're like his eyes and ears. I think of like a reconnaissance. They're going out to the earth on behalf of Yahweh for him. Um, but so that's what these are. That's who they are. They're from Yahweh sent out to patrol the earth. And this I have to answer because I asked this question. Maybe what's a sorrel horse? Like I know red. I'm like, what's sorrel? And you'll see in different versions, NIV, the King James version, that you got brown, speckled, bay, chestnut, chestnut colored are the different ways the different versions translate a sorrel horse. And here, a sorrel horse is a reddish coat, lacking any black. It's usually synonymous with chestnut. To me, that's what it's chestnut. In fact, as I was looking at this, when I was growing up, we had horses, and one of our horses was that color, and we named it chestnut. So, anyways, that's what a sorrel colored horse. Not quite red, maybe brown, but it's really not brown. It's sorrel. It's chestnut. That's a sorrel horse. Okay. Um, Now it's interesting. The last vision, the eighth vision, which we'll look at in detail when we get to that, there's four chariots that come up in the eighth vision in chapter 6. In the eighth vision, there's four chariots that are led by four different colored horses. In that vision, the horses are red, black, white, and dappled. You got four chariots headed by four different colored horses. Now, there's no sorrel colored horses here. And in this vision, he asks what these are. And in that vision that comes up in the eighth one, these are the four spirits of heaven, which we'll look at in more detail at that time. But just like that's a dappled horse, it's kind of dappled gray. With these horses, I think of a correlation. Is there a correlation to Revelation? Revelation chapter 6, with the six seals, you have four horses. You have a white horse, which represents going out and conquering. You have a red horse, which goes out representing war with a sword on the earth. You have a black horse, which represents plagues and famines, that goes out with the third seal. And then you have an ashen horse, which represents death and Hades, in the book of Revelation. With that, I think there may be a correlation with that eighth vision that we'll look at when we get to the eighth vision, because I find that interesting. And just for an ashen colored horse, I think it's probably the same, similar to the dappled here in Zechariah. But anyways, that's a little bit about horses. Like I say, I don't want to get on a tangent and start looking at, but the point is, what is the point? What is the metaphor? What do the horses represent? So you can get lost in trying to figure all that out. But the simple thing here is these horses are sent from Yahweh to patrol the earth. So they went out and they patrolled the earth. And what did they find? Um, in the last vision, the horses are sent to patrol the earth at the end of the visions too. So there's patrolling at the first vision, There's patrolling in the last vision. They come back around, but that last vision is 4 chariots with 4 different colored horses. So here in the first vision, these are sent to patrol the earth. We have patrolled the earth, and behold, all the earth is peaceful and quiet. And when you first read that, I know when we study this, oh, look, he's peace on earth. That's what, okay, look at, there's peace on the earth. But I don't think this is good peace as we get further into the vision. Then the angel of Yahweh, Lord of hosts, he says, how long will you not have compassion for Jerusalem and the cities of Judah? See, what's happening here in the vision is that they go out and they patrol the earth, and all the nations around them are at peace. There's no conflict. Everybody's happy. Everybody's great. The only problem is God's city is desolate and there's no temple. So everybody else is at peace, but God's house is sitting in a ruin, and his people have been in captivity. And now the question is, how long will you have no compassion on Jerusalem and these cities? This is something I just want to put there for you if you want to have extra study information. I find very interesting. And especially in this light of asking the question to God, how long, God, are we going to be in this situation? How long are we going to have no compassion? How long before you're going to bring to pass what you've promised you're going to bring to pass? Where you're going to reunite and restore Jerusalem? How long, Lord, before this happens? And in the Psalms, we looked at this when we studied Psalms with the Wednesday Fellowship. Psalms 73 through 83 are all Psalms of Asaph. Now, they're not all Psalms of the man Asaph himself. Asaph was there at the time of David. It's actually the sons of Asaph. And some of the Psalms, many were written at the time of David. But the last 4 Psalms of Asaph, the Psalms 79, 80, 81, 85, 82, and 83, are most likely written from the descendants of Asaph and are written after the Babylonian captivity. I think possibly these Psalms 79, 80, 81, 82, and 83 were written during this time we're talking about, when they came back to the land of Israel and everything was still desolation, and the nations were rising up against them. The nations were causing fear. It could be possibly when these Psalms were written. The sons of Asaph were part of the group of Judeans that returned to Jerusalem. And these were in Ezra. I have the notes here, Ezra 2, that came back from the captivity of the singers of the sons of Asaph, 128. Sons of Asaph returned from captivity. And when they laid the foundation of the temple, you remember that? In Ezra 3:10, it was the sons of Asaph with the cymbals that were sent to praise Yahweh during that time of the rebuilding of the foundation. So I think it's possible that Psalms 79 through 83 are written during this time by these sons, these descendants of Asaph that were here. And when you read these in light of that, especially in light of this, where the angel of Yahweh is asking Yahweh, how long, Lord, that these nations have defiled your temple. These nations have laid waste, and now they're all up against us. How long before you're going to bring retribution? How long before you're going to correct all this? And here is just Psalm 79, 1 through 8. Oh God, the nations have invaded your inheritance. They have defiled your holy temple. They have laid Jerusalem in ruins. That's where we are here at this time. They have given the dead bodies of your servants for food to the birds. Verse 3, they poured out their blood like water round about Jerusalem. There was no one to bury them. They have become a reproach. We have become a reproach to our neighbors, a scoffing and a derision to those around us. So these are people in Jerusalem, but the nations, they are a derision for the nations around them. How long, O Yahweh, will you be angry forever? How long are you going to be angry towards us? Will your jealousy burn like fire? Pour out your wrath on the nations, not on us anymore. God, pour it out on the nations, which do not know you, and upon the kingdoms that do not call upon your name. They have devoured Jacob, they have laid waste his habitation. Do not remember the iniquities of our forefathers against us. Let your compassion come quickly to meet us, for we are brought low. Sounds similar to what we read last week in the first chapter of Zechariah, saying your forefathers sinned and they didn't repent. Now this psalmist is saying, Lord, don't remember the iniquities of our forefathers. Help us. How long, Lord? And then you have the same things here in Psalm 80. How long? And then he talks about asking him to judge the earth. Do not remain silent. Psalm 83. Anyways, very interesting read in light of what we're doing is Psalm 79, 80, 81, 82, and 83. And especially when we start looking at the nations that are going to come up here in the next few weeks. Very interesting stuff, and we may come back to some of that, but I just wanted to point that out to you. Psalm 79 through 83, I believe, were written also during this time of this restoration when these Judeans came back. So that's just another thing for you to have. Take a look at, do some reading. You might like that. So they patrolled the earth, and all the earth was peaceful and quiet. And then the angel of Yahweh says, how long will you have no compassion on Jerusalem and the cities of Judah? And then he says, with which you have been indignant these 70 years. How long, Lord? The 70 years are over with. This is the prayer. God, it's almost like, when is your promise going to come to pass? How long, God, before you're going to bring to pass what you promised and restore Jerusalem, restore and comfort the city of Jerusalem? Verse 13, and the angel answered Yahweh who was speaking with me, gracious words, comforting words. So the angel who was speaking with me said to me, proclaim, thus says Yahweh of hosts. This is God's answer to that prayer. And really, this is this answer to that psalmist of Psalm 79. Same thing. I am exceeding jealous for Jerusalem and Zion. This is God talking. Verse 15. But I am very angry with the nations who are at ease. These nations who kept them from building. These nations surrounding them who caused them fear to not build. God now says, I'm no longer mad at you. That's what he says. Verse 15, I am angry with the nations who are at ease, for I was only a little angry. In other words, I was a little angry with you guys, and you went into kept 70 years, but now they furthered the disaster. Now I'm angry at these nations that are sitting at peace. Therefore, thus says Yahweh, I will return to Jerusalem with compassion. My house will be built in it, and a measuring line will go stretched over Jerusalem. Again proclaim, saying, thus says Yahweh of hosts, my cities will again overflow with prosperity, and Yahweh will again comfort Zion, and again choose Jerusalem. This language in this answer from Yahweh, where he says he's a little further with disaster, it says the nations were at ease. They patrolled the earth and all was peace. The nations were at peace. But Jerusalem and Zion was in ruins. God's house had been destroyed. The land had been desolate for over 70 years. Now, God is returning this comfort, this compassion on Jerusalem. You see this comforting words? I'm going to comfort Zion. I'm going to choose Jerusalem. This screams of the prophecy of Isaiah, that he will comfort his people, that God is saying, I am going to bring comfort to Zion. I'm going to return and comfort Jerusalem. Isaiah 40 is what I think of here. Isaiah 41 through 5 and 9 and 10. Comfort, oh, comfort my people, says your God. Speak kindly to Jerusalem and call out to her that her warfare is ended, that her iniquity has been removed. She has received of Yahweh's hand double for all her sins. A voice is calling, clear the way for Yahweh in the wilderness. Make smooth in the desert a highway of our God. Let every valley be lifted up, and every mountain will be made low, and let the ground become plain, and the rugged terrain a broad valley. Then the glory of Yahweh will be revealed, and all flesh will see it together, for the mouth of Yahweh has spoken. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of Yahweh, word of our God, stands forever. Get yourself up on a high mountain, O Zion, bearer of good news. Lift up your voice mightily, O Jerusalem, bearer of good news. Lift it up. Do not fear. Say to the cities of Judah, here is your God. Behold, the Lord Yahweh will come with might. You see, when Zechariah is speaking these words, I think it's similar to what we saw last week with Haggai, where Haggai said to Zerubbabel, I'm going to shake heavens and earth, and I'm going to shake the nations. Here, he's referring back to these promises that they had heard of, that he is going to come back and comfort Jerusalem. He is going to restore Zion. He is going to restore Jerusalem to its glory. And it's part of the hope. It was part of their hope, and it's still part of their hope. But for these people at this time, this would have been a motivation to build. I mean, can you see it? You've been in captivity, and now God is saying, I'm going to comfort Jerusalem. My compassion is my house is going to be built. So that motivation for Zerubbabel and Joshua to get busy building, it's time. It's time to build. It's time for God's work to be done here in Jerusalem. So that's this patrolling. They patrol the earth. This is the answer of Yahweh about the nations being at peace and at ease. You have this phrase here. You see that a measuring line will be stretched over Jerusalem. In prophecy, and we'll look at this when we look at a man with a measuring line. Measuring line is used of construction. I think of a tape measure. And Jerusalem, the temple is going to be built. The city is going to be fortified. It's going to be built again. This measuring line is going out. And the message is Yahweh of hosts is now, right now. Now is the time. He's doing his work. It's now time to build. It's now time to do this. This is the time where God is going to bring forth his zealousness for Jerusalem and Zion. And I think they thought that they were coming to the end. They were bringing in the new Zion. At least that's kind of the vocabulary, the way he's speaking. He's speaking like Isaiah spoke, that it's time for the comfort of Zion. So this hope that we have is real, and I think it's similar to the way we are to think today. So what can we learn here about the time of Zech with this first vision? In this first vision, the horsemen patrolled the earth. And what they found was that the nations around were at peace and they were at ease, while God's house in Jerusalem had been desolate for 70 years. God was angry with Israel and sent them into Israel, but now it's time for the Jewish people to do God's will again. And now he's angry with the nations that are up against them. And a measuring line will be stretched over Jerusalem. It's now time for God's temple to be rebuilt. Despite these nations that have been at ease, it's time for God to comfort Zion and Jerusalem. Basically, get busy building the temple. The measuring line's gone out. God is behind this. And that's what this first vision is. What can we learn about future prophecy? I find some unique parallels in this because he's talking about the desolation for over 70 years. In the book of Daniel, chapter 9, when Daniel asks about the 70 years, he's given the revelation of the 70 weeks or the 70 Shabuah, 70 sets of seven. And he gets up to 300 and, not 300, he gets up to 69 weeks. And there's one more week in history that has not yet taken place, which is going to be the end of that 70 weeks, 70 sets of 7 years. That's yet to come. There's going to be 3.5 years of desolation. And at the end of those 70 weeks, God's wrath is going to be poured out on the nations. That actually is the time in the future yet when this time of Zion is going to take place. That is the time when God is actually, for real, for the end, when he's finally going to comfort Jerusalem for all time. That's when the nations are going to be shaken. And kind of think of 1 Thessalonians 5 here, where it says, when they say peace and safety, right? Isn't that what we're always talking about? Isn't that what we just heard about this week? What's happening with Israel? What we want? Peace. And when all the nations come together and we say peace and safety, then sudden destruction will come. Then God's going to be angry with the nations again. And that's going to happen. So what can we learn practically for us today as we live our lives? I just think as Israel and Jerusalem, they were waiting for God's promise. How long, Lord, before you're going to do what you said and we return? We too today patiently wait for God to bring to pass what he's promised. It's easy to get impatient or ask the question like is asked in Peter, where is the promise of his coming? When is Jesus Christ coming back? When is this going to happen, Lord? How long, Lord, before you're going to bring to pass what you promised? And I think of these verses for us today in 1 Thessalonians 5, 1 through 11. Now, as to the times and the epochs, brethren, you have no need of anything to be written to you. For you yourselves know full well that the day of the Lord will come just like a thief in the night. While they are saying peace and safety, the patrol goes out, the world is at peace and safety. Then destruction will come upon them suddenly like labor pains upon a woman with child, and they will not escape. But you, brethren, are not in darkness, that day would overtake you like a thief. For you are all sons of light and sons of the day. We are not of the darkness. So then let us not sleep as others do, but let us be alert and sober. For those who sleep do their sleeping at night, and those who get drunk at night. But since we are of the day, let us be sober, having put on the breastplate of faith and love as a helmet, the hope of salvation. For God has not destined us for wrath, but for obtaining salvation through our Lord Jesus Christ, who died for us, that whether we awake or sleep, we will live together with him. Therefore, encourage one another and build up one another as you are doing. Build up one another. Remember, just as they were to build the physical temple, I think today we are to do the work of God and build with that same attitude of God's going to bring to pass his promise. And as I look at the world, and when we look at the nations next week that are in, we could be coming on this, right? I mean, we don't know, but man, we really have a message for the world. And then I think the one in 2 Peter where he says, Lord is not slow about his promise, but the day of the Lord's coming like a thief in the night. You know the record. We're looking for that day when God's going to bring his promise together. In verse 14, therefore, beloved, since you look at these things, be diligent to be found by him in peace, spotless and blameless. And here in this first vision, these horses go out to patrol the earth. The angel of the Lord asks, and they find it peace and quiet. It's peace and safety. Everything's quiet. And the angel of Yahweh says, how long, Yahweh? How long before you're not going to bring to pass what you promised on Jerusalem and have compassion on your people? And then Yahweh says, I'm angry now with the nations. I'm going to comfort Jerusalem. I'm going to comfort and a measuring line is going to go out. It's time to build. And I think we today, time for us to build, time for us to build up one another. It's time for us to build on the promises of God. So next week, we'll look at the second vision, the four horsemen. The four horns and the four carpenters. And that will be next week.